It seems that the positioning of the buttons has changed since last time. I'm seeing different positions. So they appear on the top instead of the middle. So you may have to adjust this. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, so we can start. Hello, my name is Alexandros. I'm a founding coordinator for the academic project IDSP, i.e. Dissertation Support Project. And today we're holding the first session of IDSP Competition 2020 Data Analysis Demos, number 1, or in short, IDSP20C, which is C is taken from competition, DAD, so D data, A analysis, D demos, number 1. And I'm speaking from London on the 20th of August 2020. Here you can see the logo of our project and the logo of the competition. Our social media handle is on the bottom left corner, where I'm pointing right now, and this IDSP IOE, where you can find materials and recordings of these sessions. We have profiles LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our hashtag is IDSP20C for the competition. And for these specific sessions, we have a new one, IDSP20CDAD. So today we're pleased to initiate these sessions on our IDSP Microsoft Teams team with the previously mentioned title, IDSP20CDAD. These sessions include dissertation research, data analysis, practical demonstrations by competitors of our IDSP competition 2020 for postgraduate taught dissertations, and they also include questions by our team members. In the first session, IDSP20CDAD1, we're hearing from 2 IDSP20C distinguished competitors, Tianxin, which made it to the medalist, and Hannah, who was winner of the preliminary part of our competition, which was very demanding. So congratulations to both of you. The sessions are moderated by me, Alexandros, and let me now briefly introduce today's presenters. So first, Tianxin Yan is our first IDSP20CDAD1 presenter and also silver medalist of our competition. Tianxin is studying a Masters of Arts in Applied Linguistics at UCL Institute of Education and holds a Bachelor of Arts in English. Tianxin is interested in language and ideology, currently researching Afrophobia on Chinese social media sites and aiming to unpack racist discourse in cyberspace through a combination of quantitative and qualitative methods. Tianxin is presenting a demo today on word frequency and collocation analysis with the corpus tool AntConc. Welcome, Tianxin. Our second presenter for today and last. So we're keeping this session short because time is precious to and trying to give like a concise version which may be useful to all of us. So our second presenter for DAD and competitor is of our competition is Hannah Scott. Hannah is currently studying Master of Science in Social Policy and Social Research at UCL IOE and holds a Bachelor of Arts Honors degree in Children, Young People and Families. Hannah has previously worked in specialist education provision and has held research assistant positions, being after a PhD study and academic career. We're wishing you all the best in this. It's quite demanding. Hannah is currently investigating university students' lived experiences of Class A drug taking and perspectives of PSHE drug education through multiple qualitative methods. Hannah is presenting on the use of multiple qualitative methods today with two approaches to thematic analysis. Welcome, Hannah. Finally, administration, gratitude, and wishes. In terms of attendance, this is open to all our team members. So if you are our Microsoft Teams member, you can attend the session. That can also ask questions in the meeting chat. But the sessions, as we said, are going to be published for also more broadly, but as a recording, not as a live session. Our warm gratitude and wishes to our two presenters today and participants to the session. The data analysis demos are recorded and can be watched later in a general channel and social media. Reminder that the second session is scheduled for next week, same day, same time, and we are also hoping to continue even after. So as long as we have interest from competitors, even if they want to present more of their work, we are going to keep holding the sessions possibly until the end of, until our next competition next year. So we're hearing Hannah's second part next week in the same channel. And finally, wishing a fruitful discussion, I'm inviting Tianxin to initiate the first of these promising sessions. So Tianxin, you can, you are invited.
Thank you, Alexandros. Can you hear me? Okay, so it's really good to see you again, and I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce the quantitative part of my dissertation. My research is about anti-Black racism on Chinese social media, and it is actually essentially qualitative because it is based on critical discourse analysis. But I used quantitative method, but a tool of quantitative analysis to locate salient topics and the repeating patterns before applying the critical discourse analysis, and that's what I'm gonna introduce. So the quantitative part of locating discourse was realized through using this software called AntConc, and this is the main page of the AntConc. This is a free software designed to process corpus data. And let's start by opening a file. I prepared an English corpus file, which is for this presentation because my corpus was in Chinese. So in order to let you have a clear view of how this software is processed, I prepared a corpus of Australian presidential election. And this is a Twitter corpus collected through the hashtag of Oz polls and Oz election. So this is the main page of the software, and you can see there are different function bars here, and that's basically all the function this software can provide. It's really easy to use and an interesting software. Anyway, let's start with the word list. We can simply click start here to have a word list here to see the frequent words used in this corpus. So these are the words listed according to their frequency, which means that the first is the most frequent words. I guess that's not a meaningful word here because this corpus is, I borrowed this corpus from my friend who is doing who is doing CS. Anyway, this corpus is designed for sentimental classification, I guess. So you can order this list according to their frequency. You can also do it in an alphabetic order here. And I guess this could be very fruitful if you are a language learner and you want to see how words are used by native speakers in real context. So let's see. Okay, so the word list function actually provide a presentation of how each word, each lexical item is used in isolation. But if you want to see how each word are used in context, you can use the concordance tool, and this can be simply achieved by clicking the words. And now you can see that these are the concordance lines of the keywords labor, and that's how people are discussing around this topic. You can see that some words are highlighted with different color, and this is achieved here. This means that the first word to the right, the second and the third word to the right are highlighted. But if you want to see how the words to the left are highlighted, you can also do it here. Like here, this means the second word to the left and the first word to the left. And now the word to the left of labor is highlighted. And this will enable you to examine how it is exactly used. The search window size here shows how many characters will appear on the window. This means that there are 50 characters appear on the right of the word labor, and the 50 words appears to the right. So you can, if you want to see a more concrete use of the collocates of the words, you can do it here. Oh, this maybe do it too slow. Yeah. Labor has pursuit, and this can locate some phrases and collocates. But if you want to see how the collocates, exact collocates for example, if you want to see how a word often co-appears with a term, and possibly by this you can identify topics and the salient discourse patterns. You can search, for example, let's see, text. And so that would be the frequent collocates of the word text. And here is a carbon text. So maybe you may find that I'm not very familiar with the politics in Australia, but you can possibly locate salient topics that are around the discussion of text. So next I'm going to show part of my dissertation data analysis. So this is the top 100 frequency words that I collected from the analysis. And these are all contents words because there are many functional words. So in this corpus, you can see that the top words that are mentioned most frequently is Black people. And then there are China, Africa, the US, and interesting, woman is also a very frequent token used in the discourse, which may indicate that discussion of Black people are often associated with topics with women. And these are the collocate bar of the keywords international students. So these are the top 10 collocates of international students. So we have Black people, China, girls, foreign, trash. This means that when these bloggers are talking about international students, they like to use these derogatory nomination to refer to them. And also, girls, the term girls also emerge as a very frequent token that co-appear with international students. And that enables you to further identify topics and salient discourse patterns. So there are also other functions, but I didn't use it in my dissertation. And if you're interested, you can check YouTube. Maybe there are many tutorial videos. And that's all about my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tianxin. So it was interesting to see your own dissertation analysis. So what did you find as a useful, let's say, most interesting result out of this analysis that you performed? So which one made you made an impression on you? So, for example, to see that Black people is first or women is second. Which one is the one that you were not expecting or it made impression?
I guess because I didn't realize that a woman, because there are women, female, and girls. There are actually three terms that indicate to gender. So it shows that this is really, people are really interested in how Black people are interacting with Chinese women. We can say that. And by examining the collocates of the term woman, girls, and female, what I find is that there is often a paradoxical representation of the image of woman. On the one hand, for example, women are constructed as passive victim of Black predators, Black perpetrators, like how they are sexually assaulted or raped even by Black immigrants in China. And on the other hand, they are also constructed as actively voluntarily interacting with Black people because Chinese women believe that the Black people somehow are more sexually potent in comparison to Chinese. I don't know, that's what many of the concordance lines shows. So that's interesting how the image of woman is manipulated by these racist speakers in order to realize their cause and prove their point.
So the way that you interpreted these results is I think you made the first mention of how, but could you say a little more about how the interpretation went forth?
Oh, I used the framework of Ruth Wodak, the discourse historical analysis to there are different strategies according to this framework. For example, the nomination strategy and predication strategy and also argumentation strategy. And these can be used to analyze how discourse is structured. For example, the example I mentioned before, that for international students are referred to as foreign trash, and that's dehumanizing nomination used to refer to them. And it also has a historical origin because it originally means means international waste trade, in which developed country often sells hazardous trade to developing country, which means that so the implied logic is that even though they are trash, we are paying for them, and that's how they apply this logic to the attitudes to the Black people in China, especially international students. They are trying to say that even though they are inferior, naturally inferior, innately unintelligent or something like that, and sexually intemperate, Chinese governments are supporting them economically and giving them scholarship. Yeah, that's...
Okay. So now, do you intend to use further analysis than the one that you showed us? Because you said that you have not done many analysis over there. So do you intend to enhance this analysis even after submitting your dissertation? If you have to submit now, maybe it's not feasible, but later on, if you intend to add more analysis, and this is my first part, and there is a second part of this question. Would you be interested in presenting a second part on our sessions?
Yeah, I'm actually very interested in how I can expand this research further, but I'm thinking of using that corporate softwares that are more friendly to Chinese processing, because this process is majorly designed for English, French, and and there are fundamental difference between these different languages. So, for example, when I'm using this corpus, I need to process it before, like I need to segment all the words using Python. I didn't do that. My friend helped me do that. Anyway, so hopefully there would be a software that are more convenient for us to process Chinese data. And maybe I can locate or I can find some potential patterns if there's such a software.
So we're looking forward to having a next second session with you when you are ready. Congratulations.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hannah, would you like to ask any question?
No, it was a really informative presentation. But yeah, if you have, if you want to do another session, it'd be interesting to hear more.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now let's pass to Hannah and hear her presentation. So Hannah, we are all ears.
The share screen function doesn't appear to be working for me.
You tried the button?
Yes. When I click it, it just comes up with a blank section underneath.
It should show you windows to choose from.
Yeah, it's not showing any. It's just coming up black as a black bar.
You tried more than once?
Yeah. I've tried putting it down and reopening the share screen
Would
window.
you like to leave the session and come back? To maybe helps.
Yep, I can try and leave it and come back in.
Okay. So Tianxin, you have a friend over there. Your dog is there.
Yes.
Supporting you in the presentation.
Yeah, I'm really lucky.
So when is your submission date for the dissertation?
The deadline is 15th
15. All the best.
September. It's coming. It's coming after me.
It's still doing exactly the same at the moment. It isn't giving me the option to share anything.
Are you using a restricted account?
I didn't think so. I'm just using it the same as I did for the competition, but it's not giving me the option to share any windows.
How can we deal with this? Is it possible to? I think it's very, very difficult to have a demo without.
If it's easier, I could give a double demonstration next week and present both sections next week, and then hopefully I'll have some time to sort of figure out why it's not letting me share.
So you say you are clicking and it shows.
It's just a completely blank bar.
Can you click on this blank anyway and see if we can see if it is showing anything to us at least?
Yeah, I'm clicking on it, but it's not bringing anything up.
Is it showing a blank section?
Yeah, it just comes up with a sort of blank section at the bottom of the screen.
If you click on this blank section?
Yeah, nothing's happening.
It seems that Microsoft Teams changed, and maybe these changes affected. But for me and Tianxin, it worked.
Do you need to update the app?
I didn't think there were any updates last time I checked.
So So you prepared slides or software?
I have slides, yeah. Yeah, it's just not letting me share anything.
If you send the slides over, if you can send slides over and I can show the slides? If you attach the slides on the chat.
Yeah.
And then I can share the slides for you. Or you also need something else. So you can give me a sign when to change, when to go to the next slide. Let me download. So, for example, you can raise your hand when you want me to change the slide.
Are these slides being shared at the moment?
No, I'm just opening.
Okay.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Actually, I may not even be able to see you because I am presenting the slides. So maybe you should say when you want me to change. Or you can say that if you say next, I will change to the next one.
So if we go, so my presentation is on the use of multiple qualitative methods, and this one is on 2 different approaches to thematic analysis. So next slide, please. So I used 3 sort of main different qualitative methods in my dissertation, and the 2 that I'll discuss today are an ideographic case study approach to thematic analysis and a more traditional approach to thematic analysis. Next slide. So an ideographic case study approach to thematic analysis is rooted in interpretive phenomenological analysis, and interpretive phenomenological analysis is a methodology that places a lot of emphasis on understanding and gaining insight into individuals' experiences and how they interpret those experiences and the feelings that they have and how they think about those experiences. So the ideographic case study approach starts by open coding one case. It then looks for connections between the codes to form clusters or categories. This is then repeated for each different case, looking at each of them afresh. And then once you have your categories or clusters for each transcript, you then look for sort of connections or tensions or patterns between the cases. So the next slide. So here is an extract from my transcript. So for the initial open coding, it just sort of goes through looking for key thoughts, feelings, or ways that individuals have understand. So if you click next. So second year of university identifies when. Next. So MDMA being the drug that they used. Next. Feeling worried all the time. Next. Hadn't done anything like that before. Sort of meaning to try it, so wanting to do it. Being curious about the effects. Friends being supportive. Drug taking occurring with other students. Other students being active users. Wasn't their first time. Pre-planning. Wouldn't have decided to do it on the spot. Risks being similar to other drugs. Altering your judgment, so some knowledge of the risks. Not being 100% of what you're putting into your body. And then the price you have to pay if you're caught carrying it, so some knowledge of legal consequences. And friends being a source of knowledge. Friends being experienced. And using Google and researching. So when you then look at all those themes, you're looking for connections between them. So where are their links? Where are their similar themes? Next. So once you can sort of categorize them into little clusters, and then you want to sort of give a name to those clusters. So next. So that being so MDMA during university being the kind of identifier for this student. So tension between curiosity and wanting to try it, but pre-planning and being worried. Supportive, more knowledgeable friends. Some knowledge of the risks. And wanting to be informed. So when you've looked through all the transcripts, you'll have similar clusters for each individual that you'll have worked out. So then you want to look for sort of tensions or similarities between them. So next. So here all of the students had done MDMA as their first drug. However, only 2 of them did it during university, whereas 1 did it before university. So there's likely to be some differences between them already. So on the left-hand side, sort of, you've got supportive, more knowledgeable friends. On the right, you've got older friends, which suggests they're likely to as well be more knowledgeable to some extent. So there are likely to be some similarities there. Where on the left, the students that took it during university have some knowledge of the risks, but on the right, the student that took it before university has got substantial knowledge. So there's a difference there between them. And then those that on the left, one of them is engaging in some harm reduction, the other isn't engaging in any, but those that took it before university are always engaging in harm reduction practices. Curiosity was a key thing that all of them listed as being a reason for wanting to try drugs. And sort of wanting to fit in suggests that there is some sort of risk, like with those that took it before university being in a high-risk situation, which suggests that there's something about university or the situations they were in before university that increases risk. And on the left, there is some tension between their curiosity and wanting to try it, which suggests that there's something there that's increased their risk, that's pushed them over to wanting to try it rather than just being curious. And then while those that took it during university want to be informed, those that took it before university are wanting to sort of more seek out and fact check information rather than just taking anecdotal evidence or generally Googling. So using a more standard thematic analysis approach, you can tend, rather than sort of looking more openly at each transcript and finding connections between them, you can use a more sort of deductive approach. So the themes that I've then taken from my analysis, I then used in my thematic analysis of Reddit. Next slide. So thematic analysis has, that Braun and Clark outline, has 5 key stages: familiarising yourself with the data, generating the initial codes, and here the initial codes have come from the thematic analysis of the interviews. So curiosity, risk, friends, knowledge, the time it's taken, support, harm reduction, research, and pressure. Then you search for themes sort of that mirror these within your transcripts. You review the themes the same way, in a similar way to what was done with the clustering, and then you're defining and naming those broader themes. So because of issues of confidentiality with posts on online forums, I have blocked out some of the posts so that they can't be just searched for verbatim. But the analysis here, we're looking for key things that we were found in relation to the codes and themes that have already been identified. So next, curiosity is a key one here. This person's been curious about wanting to try drugs. So random chance and opportunity suggests that something has changed in their situation that's increased their risk, that's given them that opportunity. So the person at the top has done it after high school and college. They've never done it until afterwards, whereas the person at the bottom did it during high school. Friends again, so it seems to be a common theme that people are first taking drugs for the first time among friends. Turning it down before suggests that there is some element of pressure, even if it isn't direct peer pressure. And when used responsibly, it's fun, suggests that there is some element of harm reduction going on. So after university, before university, opportunity, so not pre-planned, harm reduction knowledge or a positive view of drugs, curiosity, and using with more experienced friends, and pressure. So once you've got those kind of themes, you then want to sort of kind of review them, make sure they are actually illustrating what your data is suggesting, to then sort of like define and name them to give them a broader kind of sort of suggestion of what your data is actually saying. So for me, looking at the data that emerged in my thematic analysis of my interviews and looking at the data that emerged through this, a broader overarching theme that I decided to name this part of my data was opportunity, risk and belonging, because people are it's the opportunity that this new situation, whatever it is, has provided them. There are certain risks that are coming with this, and the sort of pressure from friends and the taking drugs among friends suggests there is some issue with wanting to belong to a group or being part of a group that's leading to them to take drugs. Even if it isn't direct peer pressure, there's some sort of social pressure with the needing to belong to a group and having a shared identity that leads to drug taking. Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Hannah. Thank you. So, my first question is, which of the two analyses gave you, let's say, more interesting results?
I think the analysis of the transcripts gave the more interesting results, just because obviously I'd designed my interview questions specifically to try and get the sort of data that I was looking for, because that's the sort of things that I was interested in. So I wanted to know about their experiences of drug taking, sort of what they took, who they took it with, if they had more experienced friends. So I was already sort of looking for their experiences, whereas with the Reddit posts, you're sort of almost more blind searching, because you're searching for keywords in sort of key subreddit forums, but it's not the same way with the interviews, where you've kind of got, even if it's not the results you expected, you've got kind of the data that you're looking for. So with sort of like the analysis of online forums, it can be a bit trickier to sort of find the actual data that's relevant and interesting. So within those two posts, there is interesting data, but obviously they're much smaller extracts, whereas when you're interviewing someone, you get a much broader amount of data.
So you said that the thematic analysis was applied on the Reddit, and the Ideographic was applied on interview?
Yeah.
Okay. And which of the outcomes was, let's say, more interesting for the research community?
Definitely the interviews, just because you can gain a better understanding of thoughts and feelings and their perspectives, which is what the Ideographic approach is trying to get.
Yeah, so if you can identify, let's say, one or two specific findings, let's say.
I think the sort of the tension between the curiosity and sort of wanting and sort of pre-planning, but also being worried and scared at the same time, because a lot of the kind of curiosity and wanting to try and pre-planning often then contradicted things that participants said later on, which created a really interesting tension between being curious, wanting to try and having this very positive perspective of drugs, whereas other bits within those interviews suggested that actually they were very nervous about it, very worried about it. And yeah, the sort of tension between the two was very interesting.
So you are also planning to appear in our next week's session. So can you give us a short introduction?
So my next week's session is going to focus on qualitative content analysis of PSHE guidance documents, and also between method triangulation. So the content, I use qualitative content analysis to analyse PHSE guidance documents and sample resources to sort of gain an understanding into what PSHE education should look like, to compare it to the interviews of what participants were explaining their PSHE education was actually like in practice. And then I used between method triangulation to then be able to bring the findings from the interviews, the Reddit posts, and these documents together.
Thank you. Tianxin, do you have a question or comment?
Oh yeah, actually, like when you are grouping the clusters and words, would there be any overlap between different groups?
There often is, and sometimes it's quite difficult to sort of work out clusters initially. So you might end up sort of, I quite like doing it on paper and drawing it out, but other people prefer to use NVivo software because you can attach multiple codes to or themes to your codes within NVivo. But I prefer to sort of do it on paper just because it's a bit more tactile, but I'll often sort of draw sort of lines between showing sort of connections between codes. But it can sometimes take sort of a couple of times of categorizing and then recategorizing to actually work out what those themes are, because there is sometimes an overlap, and sometimes you can combine two where they overlap together into a broader theme and then have sub-themes within them.
So, Hannah, do you intend to enhance this analysis, the first two that you presented today? Do you intend to enhance, work more on them, or try to move into another analysis for the future?
I think sort of some and some. I'd quite like to explore sort of mixed methods using qualitative and quantitative methods. So being able to sort of conduct larger scale surveys and then sort of analyze those results quantitatively, but then take those results to then conduct interviews to explore issues in further detail using sort of more thematic approaches.
Tianxin, would this thematic analysis also be useful for your data?
Yes, I'm also experiencing some trouble when I'm grouping words and identifying potential themes when I'm analyzing the corpus data. What I did is to read all the previous papers that are in related field and see how they are grouping the social media data, like according to nationality and social identity and things like that. So maybe I'll try to work on that and to find out which one is, which exact kind and way of grouping clusters would be most appropriate for my dissertation.
So to conclude the session, which it seemed that we took a long time and we had even technical issues, but I think it was worth the extra time because we had so much interesting stuff here. So it was very interesting, and I think it can continue with further sessions. When you are ready and when other conductors are ready, we can share some what we are working on and in a practical way, rather than just presenting slides, static slides. Today we saw how we can use software, how Hannah also showed how we can have a slide that is presented in parts, so we can see how step by step how we go from one to the other. So, and you are also given the opportunity to enhance your presentation skills, so that how to present better, how to improve your research and presentation skills. We're deeply grateful for our session. Congratulations to both of you. And we hope to see you also in our next sessions. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.